help he can get.
She's a cop? You didn't tell me she was a cop.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to another of my classic Jean-Claude Van Damme reviews. Today I'm taking a look at the 1998 action film Knockoff. The film is directed by Hark Sue and it stars, of course, Jean-Claude Van Damme. We have Rob Schneider, Layla Roshan, Paul Sorvino, Carmen Lee, Wyman Wong and Michael Wong. Right. Okay, bit of an odd one this. We've got Van Damme, who is a black market clothing salesman in Hong Kong, I believe it is. He's teamed up with Rob Schneider and, you know, they're trying to make their way in the fashion business by selling, if you like, cheap copies of well-known brands. But somehow he gets drawn into and has to join forces with a CIA agent in order to combat terrorism, and that CIA agent happens to be Rob Schneider, who's been working undercover. Right, what are my thoughts on Knockoff? Well, I've got to be really honest here, guys. I really struggled with this one. Really struggled with it. I obviously, you know, I've covered a lot of Van Damme films on this channel, and an awful lot of them, you know, I quite enjoy. I think, you know, a lot of his films have obviously been really quite entertaining, action-packed, all that kind of stuff. This really just did not click with me. I completely missed the mark, and I think there's a few reasons for that. I didn't like the style of the film. You know, it had this like almost like slapstick approach to it. You know, it had this comedic slapstick approach that for me just didn't work. You know, it had that Hong Kong styling to it as well that for me didn't work. You've got Van Damme here, who I think his acting in this is absolutely terrible. Look, we all know Van Damme is not what you would describe as, you know, a strong actor. Never has been, never will be. But with the right material and the right director, you can get a performance out of him. Oh boy, I don't think they even tried in this. I really don't. And then on top of that, my Achilles heel, my kryptonite, Rob Schneider, who I find the most irritating and annoying actor on the face of the earth. The only films I could tolerate him in occasionally is when he does like his cameos in Adam Sandler films. You know, when he's in them briefly. That's the only time I could tolerate him. For me, he ruins films. He ruined Judge Dredd. Not that that film is a classic or anything, the Stallone one, but he absolutely ruined that. And for me, he ruined this. I just wanted to beat the shit out of something every time he came on screen in this film. He was so irritating, and you really want me to buy that this guy is this undercover agent. He wouldn't make it through the first week of basic training, Rob Schneider, and we're meant to presume that he is, or assume that he is this undercover agent. I couldn't buy into it. I couldn't buy into the slapstick action here, and the, you know, while the action is certainly quite inventive here and there, and I never felt engaged with it really, or I don't know. It just felt cheap and sloppy at times, and with a plot that was just so nonsensical. Again, I just struggled to buy into it. It just failed, I think, with a lot of the things it tried. You know, it had that silly race at the beginning that, again, it was like some kind of sitcom. For me, the humour just... it might have been the worst part of the film, the humour. Very closely followed by Rob Schneider, and then probably the poor performance from Van Damme. I mean, it's not a total disaster. I mean, there were some fairly slick fight scenes here and there, as you would expect. But again, they weren't in any way, I don't know, memorable, I suppose is what I want to say. I mean, sometimes when you think of Van Damme films, and you can think of some of the really great fight sequences he's had in some of his films, some of his classic films, and you think about them and you're like, yeah, that was cool, I remember that. I had literally, while I only watched this one a few days ago, I couldn't really tell you one of the action scenes that was memorable here that stuck out to me. There's nothing really that I'm like, oh yeah, well that was quite cool, that worked for me. It just didn't, unfortunately, and it is very odd for a Van Damme film, because apart from, I mean, he's done a few duds these days. I think the last couple of films he's done and released, I've not been overly kind to, and that's because they just weren't very good. But at this stage in his career, 1998, he was still very, very popular. I mean, obviously, he was starting his decline to direct-to-DVD type stuff, but he was still a name. He was still a big name, really, in the action scene at this point. And this probably, to some people, might be a really, really good Van Damme film. I'm just sort of saying that it just didn't do it for me, really, this one. So yeah, I mean, it quite shocked me when I would watch this. 'Cause like I say, it's a long, long time since I've seen this one, and I do remember the first time I saw it, not really enjoying it. But I've said that a few times with films that I reviewed that I might have watched years ago. But well, when you watch them now and you're going to review them critically, you kind of watch them with different eyes quite a lot. Whereas when I was younger, when I first saw this, you know what I mean? It was the height of my love of action films. I mean, that was the genre for me in in the 90s, really, 80s and 90s. I mean, all I really cared about was action films for the most part. Arnie, Stallone, Seagal, Norris, Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren. I mean, there was just so many great action films from the 80s and 90s. So that was my genre, really. So I remember watching this back in the day and not being a fan of it then. And I used to watch a lot of shit in them days, because for every blood sport there was another one that was utter garbage, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to know from any of you guys in the comments, do you think this is one of Van Damme's top films, or even a mediocre film? For me, it was below average, this one, and I was really quite struggling to get through it at times. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Knockoff. For me, one of the biggest disappointments in regards to a Van Damme film, certainly that I've reviewed for this channel. One of his, like, what you could describe as a classic Van Damme film. But yeah, I will obviously get round to reviewing lots more Van Damme films. I've still got some more Chuck Norris ones I want to do. I'm going to start doing some Dolph Lundgren ones, I think. Anybody else, guys, let me know in the comments. Is there any action star of the 80s and 90s that you'd like me to focus on? And I will try and do that for you guys. So yeah, thanks for checking out this review. I hope you liked it. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.